All right, what is up, YouTube? This is future Nestani because past Nestani thought this was going to be one video, but it's going to be two videos. Whatever. Hello. Welcome to the beginner movement guide for Night of 100 Frights. This video will cover all the basics that you need, all the fundies, so like how to dash, jump, etc. This will cover all your basic movement needs. And I just wanted to say, like, one of the coolest parts about, you know, after you learn these fundamentals is that you can really take it to any category that you want. Every category is really riddled with movement, and every category is very movement based, and these fundamentals can really just make your times go, just shoot down if you know the fundamentals and if you know how to move. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get into the guide. I'm going to be making an advanced movement guide. If you ever hear me allude to the advanced movement guide in this video, that is because it was previously recorded. So whatever, you don't fucking care. Just here's the guide, man. Here's the guide. So you're gonna notice that I am in a level known, this is Hedge 2. If you don't recognize it, it's basically once you collect the key, and there's a floating key in Playground. You basically go through that, you get to Hedge 1, and then you just go through Hedge 1 and get to Hedge 2. And a cool thing about this level is that you can actually get out of bounds in this level, and there's kind of like a really big open field. And if you want to get to this area that I'm going to be doing the guide in, all you have to do is just B-dash at this wall, and then you're going to want to spam start in A, so basically pausing and unpausing the game in like a very fast motion, and basically just mashing that, and you're going to lag clip out of bounds. This lag clip's pretty easy to do, so you just kind of lag out of bounds right there, and then now we are out of bounds. And where you're going to see me go is I'm just going to kind of dash over here, out of bounds, and then I'm going to drop down here, and then I'm under Hedge 2 in this really big open field. And so this is where we're going to be doing a lot of the tutorialing at. So for basic movement in this game, in general, the fastest way to move Scooby is while holding the R button. So normally, I'm holding no buttons right now, as you can see. I'm just moving around. Scooby is just moving at this speed. Just pretty consistent, just walking speed. This is his walking speed. In general, you never want to walk in the game unless you are trying to set up for a dig. So if you're digging for a key, let's say after you talk to Don Knotts, you actually jump into him, and then you walk to the spot where you dig, and then you press X, and then you dig. You'll also use that in Hedge 3 as well when you're digging up the key at the beginning of that level in a lot of categories. But generally, you will not want to walk at all. And so your main movement mechanic is actually going to be holding down the R button. So the R button right here, this allows you to run. So this, you can obviously tell that Scooby is moving faster, LMAO. So in general, throughout the game, you will be wanting to hold this down all the time. And generally, you only want to release this whenever you want to skid, which you will want to skid in certain spots, but we'll get into that a bit later. Just generally for moving, you'll just want to run. Now, the R button to running segues us nicely into our next topic of conversation, which is dashing. So if you press and hold the B button on your controller, you will dash forward. Scooby will basically start slow and then go fast and then skid to a halt. Now, the reason that we want to hold the R button is not only because of this base running speed is faster than walking, but also because whenever you dash and you're holding the R button, Scooby does not skid. So I'm holding down the R button, I am not skidding. Now, if I release the R button, I will skid. And if I start the dash, skid, R, I am not skidding. So generally, the R button will just always be firmly placed down, except for very specific tricks like rubber band skip, for example, but we'll get into that in a second, why that is. A big thing to look out for when talking about Scooby's dash attack is that at the beginning of the dash, you are actually slower than you are at the end of the dash. So if I'm just running and I press the B button, you'll actually see Scooby slow down. This is because the beginning of his dash is actually slower than the speed of the running animation, meaning that you only want to use his dash over long distances. And basically, if you just use his dash over short distance, you would just be better off running because you move faster while running than you do at the beginning of the dash. So you will only want to dash over long distances or just distances where you can get the full value and the full length of Scooby's charge attack, since at the end you are faster. Just keep that in mind when you're choosing when to dash and where to dash. There are certain spots where dashing is just straight up slower, most notably in the level above me, I guess, most notably in Hedge 2. After you jump across the gap and you collect those 4 snacks, it's actually faster to run to the snack box and collect both of the snack boxes than it is to land and dash. And there's a lot of little instances like that throughout the game. I'm not going to point them all out, but just whatever feels right to you, just do for the most part. And if you have specific questions, anyone in the Discord could probably tell you. And in certain spots, it doesn't really matter, most notably at the end of Skull 2. After you jump over the crab, it doesn't really matter whether you dash or not, you are pretty much going the same. You are going the same speed. And then, obviously, ideally, you want to chain these dashes together as much as possible. And that is... So another part of Scooby's charge attack is that his hitbox shrinks to his head, meaning that you can actually use your charge attack to get around enemies where you otherwise would get hit. And so by that, I mean, let's say I'm running around this zombie, I get hit right there, right? But if I charge, I can be right next to him and he will actually never hit me. And you can see this in more places, such as over here. But, you know, I'm walking, you know, I'm not getting hit. I can be right next to this werewolf and not get hit just because I'm charging away from him. But as soon as I stop charging, I get hit. And you'll use this in levels most notably such as Coast 2 and Lighthouse 1 for an example, to make 2 cycles in each of those levels respectively. Just being able to dash around the enemies and not not getting hit by them. Another move mechanic I want to talk about is jumping. So as you can see, I'm running, and then I jump. And you can see that I'm slowing down. If you look at the shapes in the background, you can clearly see that when I jump, I slow down. And so what you want to do with jumping is that you actually want to minimize the amount of time that you're in the air at all times. Obviously, certain times you will need to, you know, do the full jump in order to gain the height required to get where you want to go. But if you're jumping over small gaps, small crevices, in general, you want to minimize your jumps. The way that you can do this is that Scooby actually has 2 jump heights. He has one, which is if you just full press, he does this big jump, right? Big jump. But if you tap it, he has a shorter jump height. So what you want to do is that you actually, whenever you're jumping over like small crevices, you just need to jump over something. You want to just tap the button in order to jump over things. And then another big thing to do is a full jump into a soft tap. So if you full jump soft tap, you will fall faster. If you do a full jump into a second smaller single jump, you will get to the ground faster, minimizing your height in the air rather than if you did 2 full jumps. So you do 2 full jumps. This is pretty slow, but if I'm running and I go. And so this will generally be the motion that you're going to be doing when you're jumping over any large gaps or crevices, such as the ones above me in Hedge 2, Hedge 1, etc. Obviously, sometimes you need the full height and the full length of your jumps in order to get to places, but generally that is what you will be aiming for with jumping. It's just minimizing the amount of time that you're in the air, and you can apply that to everywhere in the game. A common misconception about Scooby's jumps is that he jumps higher when you don't hold the R button. Now, this is just not true, and I'll just show that to you right now. So the only difference is in the single jump. Your paws are higher up, allowing you to get to ledges slightly higher up, but the actual height that you're going is actually the same. And the best way that I can show that is just by double jumping. So if I do a full double jump, you can see this is how high I'm getting. But if I were to run and then I double jump, I am getting the same height. As you can see, my head is still clipping a bit higher up. I'm going the same amount of distance upwards. So whenever people say that you jump higher without the R button, it's just not true. You're just shifting your hitbox so that you can gain a bit more height on the first jump. But as soon as you double jump, it doesn't matter. The biggest thing I can point this out to is BKE. A lot of people think that you need to hold down the R button to do BKE. You don't. You just need a max height and max distance double jump, and you go the same height and distance whether you're holding the R button or not holding the R button. Here's an example of that. Holding down the R button, hit the trick, and then let's not hold down the R button. And then I hit the trick. Either way, I can make this jump with the R button or without the R button. It does not matter. And so I just wanted to clear up that misconception about the Scooby's jump. Alright, future Nestani here. Pardon the fireworks, by the way, but past me forgot to mention something about jumping, and that is when you jump off a trampoline, normally you have this very long, you know, falling animation. But what you can do is that you can actually cancel this animation by jumping. So you can shorten the height. So, you know, I jump on this trampoline, it normally takes this long to get up here, but what I can do is just cancel that, and then I can get up here faster. Just in general, you can cancel your, you know, your movement off of trampolines, and that can speed up your movement in certain places like Rec 2, Fishy 3, etc, etc, etc. Now I wanted to touch on moving and turning Scooby. The basic thought is that you want to roll the control stick whenever you are turning. So as you can see, I'm rolling the control stick. And this is the way that you will want to turn Scooby. You will want to roll the control stick. And the reason for this is that if you are going left and let's say you want to hard pivot right, you will skid. You see how I skid? Just going hard right to hard left. Hard right, hard left. Hard right, hard left. But if I roll up and to the right, I won't do that. So you can see I'm rolling, I'll slow it down, but speed up. You can see I'm always doing that sweeping motion. And if you do the sweeping motion, you will never skid. And so, in general, for when you're moving Scooby and you're walking around places, you will always want to be rolling the control stick. Even if you're, and the only time that you don't want to roll the control stick is if you are in the air. In the air, it does not matter. So you can go left to right in the air, no matter what, it's fine. But again, going right to left on the ground generally is not something you want to do. Another form of mechanic is skid jumping. For this, I decided to go into Skull Forest. This is the easiest level where I can show you all skid jumping. So how skid jumping works is that essentially if you let go of the R button, you skid, right? Let's go here. If I let go of the R button, I skid. But if I keep holding the R button, I won't skid. And so basically if you fall off the edge, you have a certain amount of frames in order to input a jump and be able to jump. These are called coyote frames, and skid jumping basically extends the amount of coyote frames you have. So essentially what that means is that if I just walk off the edge, I can only do one jump, but I can skid, and before my skid ends, I can jump again, letting me gain more distance, because see here, I can't jump, but if I were to release the R button and skid off, I can jump, right? And so that is what skid jumping allows you to do. It's most notably obviously used here in Skull 4, where normally you do the void warp, you jump up here, and then, you know, you skid jump, and then you make it all the way over this chasm. But if you don't do that, let's do the same trick, but let's just hold the R button every single time. I don't get the distance required. I don't get the skid jump that I need, and so I don't get the distance required, so I just die, right? Skid jumping is a relatively new mechanic that we've figured out in the community, so it is not used that often in runs, but I just wanted to introduce it here as a basic form movement, because it is a basic form movement, and in certain tricks you will need to do it as it becomes more popularized throughout different categories. Alright, so another basic movement mechanic that I wanted to introduce is momentum-based moving. So this is most prevalent in levels such as Fishy Clues, which you don't go into in the 80% run, ironically, but this is also extended to any platforms that move that you will be running on. And so basically, how momentum works is that if you are traveling with, you know, a treadmill or a platform, anything that moves, if you're traveling with it, you will go faster. See, I'm just moving through here. But if I'm going against it, I get slowed down to a screeching halt. Right here is a good example. I get just absolutely annihilated, right? I go with it, and then, I'm slowed down. The way to avoid killing your momentum while you're traveling against moving platforms is basically just to jump off of them at the same time that you land. So you basically just want to not land on the platform at all and just keep your forward momentum and just move through the level. And then, you know, Fishy is a good example because I can travel with this and then go here and then, ooh, I don't want this thing. You know, I missed that one. But, you know, but here, you know, I want to keep going forward. It allows you to just keep your forward momentum. And it's a bit hard thing to do, it's a bit finicky, but you'll get used to it as you go along, and that's basically how momentum works is in any percent you'll see this fewer times. You'll see it in like Hedge 1 and Skull 3. But generally, just if you run into a platform that's moving against you, just try to jump off of it immediately so it doesn't kill your momentum. Alright, and so the last thing I wanted to talk about is menuing. Now, menuing, it's not really movement, I guess, technically, but it is a thing that I just want to touch on just very briefly, is that whenever you're in the map or just in the menu in general, you know, you can move, as you can see, you can move in the map with the left control stick, but what you can also do is move with the C stick as well. So this creates a thing where you can do something known as double sticking, which you can basically just increase the speed that you move through the menu by just, you know, using both sticks rather than just one. This just allows you to menu slightly faster, and then you can also go pretty quickly with the D-pad. You know, you can spam the D-pad a lot too. And so generally you can use the D-pad or double stick, as it's generally the fastest way to menu. Some other notable runners that use D-padding are Cole and Moral, I believe. That might not be completely accurate. I'm pretty sure one of them D-pads for sure. I think they both D-pad to go to the menu, but I personally like double sticking. I think double sticking is just easiest for me. And so it's just generally what you want to do for menuing. So I just wanted to touch on menu really quickly, just because you can save a lot of time going to the menu just by being able to double stick or D-pad, whatever you want to do. Now that we have all of the mechanics and understanding of how the game works and how you're going to be moving at a very basic level, let's try putting it all together. The best level, in my opinion, in order to put all of these together is Hedge 1. Hedge 1 is a really cool level because it challenges every single part of your fundamentals for the most part. Besides like skid jumping, I guess it doesn't test your skid jumping, but you know, like outside of that, it challenges how you move and turn at the very beginning as soon as you enter the level, because of that up and down motion that you have to do, that you have to roll your control stick. Hedge 1 also challenges the hardest part of the game, in my opinion, your dashing. It can be pretty unwieldy to use the dash properly and to move around corners properly when you're, you know, first getting into the game. And even if you've been playing the game for a while, it can still be challenging. I think it's the most challenging part of Scooby, is just being able to control where you're dashing and how fast you're turning the dash. It's very much a thing that you have to keep going at over and over and over again until you really get a feel for how Scooby likes to turn and the speed in which he can turn. Because, you know, sometimes you can move too fast, and then you get, if you try to turn around too fast, you actually are slower than if you, like, ironically, if you move the control stick slower, you can turn around faster than if you were going and then you try to turn around real quick, you'll actually go a bit slower. And so Hedge 1 also tests that as well. And then it also, you can get great practice with jump heights because of the short jumps that you'll want to do over the gaps in Hedge 1. And then also you will be able to touch on momentum a little bit with the platforms. And then there's also a cycle at the end of the level where if you do it properly, you do the 80% way, you will be able to make a cycle known as a werewolf cycle, which is basically just making it to the end before the werewolf is on top of a snack. And basically, if you can make this cycle consistently, your fundamentals are pretty good. And so I think it's just a really good level for beginners to really like learn and nail down movement, because listen, if you can make a werewolf cycle, you can pretty much make almost any cycle in the game. Hello, future Nestani here. I just wanted to say, be sure to like and subscribe, and be sure to check out the advanced movement guide, because the advanced movement guide can really take your movement to the next level. So with that being said, goodbye, I guess. I don't know why I did this.